Okay, we got 2 minutes before we go officially live, so I'm just getting myself all together. See who joins. Oh, look at this. I can share to a group. Let me do this. Let's see. Let's see. Hi, everybody. Oh, great. I'm starting to see everybody get logged in and stuff like that. We still have another minute, and I'm just like getting my last minute notes and giving people a chance. Oh, it's so nice to see everybody. Hey, Tracy. Awesome. Today's been like a day off the hooks. It's been so busy that I'm still working on notes and everything. Normally I have everything all together. Oh, it's so nice to see so many people logging in now. So, okay, so we still just have a few minutes. What I did was download a whole bunch of questions. Hi, Lyra. Last week was a lot of fun. I was able to do it right from my porch because it was a holiday. So I'm really, that was really relaxed and definitely a lot of fun. Hey, sweetie. And today I'm doing it here at my store. Let's get that out of there. So you can see that what I have back here and such. So I think the lighting is a lot better than before. So it's really nice to see. I can actually do this anywhere. So that's the whole beauty about this. So I'm really going to try and make this every Monday the best I can at 5 o'clock. So this time it was really nice that I got a bunch of questions from a lot of people. So I'm going to be working on those questions. And then in my tarot and divination forum, I wrote a question saying what drew you to your form of divination. So I thought it would be a lot of fun to kind of touch on those things because I'm curious as to why you were drawn to the tarot or the runes or the pendulum. What drew you to it? Because that's what this forum is about, what everybody wants to do, which is really great. So let me see, are we on the we're on the mark, so we can get started. And if you would, please feel free to share this link or invite people to this. The more this gets shared, the more, the more participation that we have in the forum as well as in the tarot forum, the group that we have. It would really be nice. Hey, Shireen. So with that in mind, like I put it on my business page, I have it in our tarot forum, and I'm doing this off of my main page because my main page has 5,000 people. I'm at the limit there, so I can't go any further than that. And events only limit you to 50. So if I have 5,000 people, 50 isn't gonna work for me. So if you would invite people to watch this with you, certainly the last time I checked, the video that we did last week got over 1,000 views. So that means this is needed. And I found a way to take the videos that are posted onto Facebook, these videos that we're doing, and put it onto my phone. And from my phone, I'll be putting it on YouTube. So we also have a YouTube page if you want to kind of check that out. So if you can't see it now or people can't see this live, which I still prefer because I get the questions, you can also see it on Facebook, but eventually it'll make its way onto YouTube. I can't think of any other forums because last week we went over an hour. So it seems that everybody seems to really like that. Hi from England. That is awesome. Yep, so we're international. I love that. So I also invited another reader. Hope she can make it in. I invited Renee, so I'm hoping that we can get her input as well, and we can start with that. So the questions, I'm going to start with the questions that people gave me from last week's show. Hey, Evelyn. Oh, my sister-in-law is there. Good to see you. And she's watching from California. So, Sabrina, I don't know if you're on because everything is buzzing by pretty quickly. But Sabrina writes, how do you shield against unwanted energy? So, I'm going to give my opinion, but I also would like you to post that. And if I can catch it in time, I'll bring that up. Because remember, it's not about me teaching, it's all of us teaching. Alrighty? So shielding against unwanted energy. Now, for most people know that I do a lot of readings. And I can't even begin to tell you in the 30 somewhat years I've been reading as to how many, but it's thousands. Alrighty? So eventually you pick up a lot of that stuff. I'm looking at what people are writing. Hello from Brazil. That's awesome. So now we're in Brazil too. With that in mind, how do you shield yourself from, unwanted energy? And sometimes that energy, I don't want to call it negative, but if the person is reading on something that is really heavy duty, and you know where I'm coming from on that one, how do you keep yourself calm, collected, and not absorb that energy? One of the things I learned, and go figure, this is in management classes that I had to take, is learn how to distance yourself to a limit. And what I mean by that is people will look at a reader. I used to be a personal trainer. Will look at a trainer or financial advisors, let's say people that give advice to others. And those clients will look at that person and they call it the God complex. Alrighty? So hear me on this. It kind of segues into Sabrina's question. So with that in mind, you don't want that. You want to distance yourself from you being the old holy one, grand poobah type stuff. Alrighty? So remember that it's always advice. Alright? And the reason why I say this is once they think you are the Godhead figure or a Godhead figure, then that energy from them goes to you almost directly, and they need you. So not only do you have to shield yourself from their energy, you'll be draining yourself dry, or they will try and pull it from you. And it's not intentional. Alrighty? So what do? Number one, when I read, they know that it's advice, and I will put a limit as to how often a person can come to me, because some people would come to me every day, and I won't do that because money-wise, that would bankrupt them. Ethic-wise, that's the wrong thing to do. Alrighty? You want to help people to depend on themselves. Alrighty? So, unwanted energy, Sabrina, one of the ways I do it is to carry tourmaline on me. I believe in using crystals, and we will touch on crystals because I believe they kind of go hand in hand with most forms of divination. But tourmaline is one of the ways that I help myself. So I have my crystals, and there's tourmaline here. There's also tourmaline in my tarot room. I don't think we can see it from here, but one of my tarot rooms is back there. I have two of them. And I also have a large sphere of selenite. And for me, selenite keeps the peace, keeps everything serene and nice. I'm looking at what people are writing. What's the best way to store cards? Oh, good question. Good question. So, hey, Helona, I keep the selenite. Selenite cleanses other stones as well, but I believe for me, and you have to work with crystals too. You have to see how they work for you. That selenite keeps the peace, keeps the calm. It also cleanses my tourmaline or other crystals. I also use labradorite to protect my third eye. So, Sabrina, if you're on, that is one of the ways I do it. Now, I'm going to put that out to all of you. Does anybody else do something different to shield themselves from unwanted energy? I haven't seen any answers to that yet, but I would love to see it. Renee, did you get my invite to add you on? Because it said that it was sent. I'm thinking I have the right thing. Guest requests, share broadcast. Okay, I'm not looking at that. Renee, take a look and see if you got an invite. I'm still trying to figure out how to add people to the broadcast, but it says that I did that already. So, choose your live mode. I did that. All right, so with that in mind, that's one of the ways that I do it. Jean, you're on. What ways do you don't see it? All right, I don't know how to do this while I'm on. And forgive me, everybody, I'm still trying to figure out this whole Facebook thingy. Allow your guest to request to join as a guest in your... So, Renee, it's telling me recently invited. It's telling me I sent it to you. I can't resend it. So, Renee, take a look and see what it says, because it says I already invited you, so I can't re-invite you. All right, so that's taking care of Sabrina's question. And mind you, once we're off the air, you can still talk on the page, so we can still share that energy. Okay, Mara says she uses hematite to keep others' negative energy at bay. That's true. Hematite is another one. So that's awesome. Renee, see what you can do, because I can't send it again because it said that I did that already. So our next question, speaking of Renee, she writes, do you think cold reading plays a part with intuition in divination? I found the invite. Maybe I have to do this on my phone. Okay, I don't know, Renee. We're going to figure this out, because you have a show, I have a show, a lot of people have shows here, so we're going to have to figure this out. So what do you think about cold readings, people? Renee is requesting to be on and approve. Let's see what we got here. So, all right, Renee, and it looks as if she is being added. So it looks like we have got it. It's working.
I think I got it now.
Yeah. Renee, I was just reading
on the laptop. I had to do it on my phone.
Oh, got it. Okay, so you hear that, everybody? If you have a show, if you invite people, you have to use your phone. I'm using my iPad. Alrighty. So Renee's question was, do you think a cold reading plays a part with intuition in divination? I think it has everything to do with it.
Yeah.
I mean, don't you think? Because a cold reading, and I do them a lot. I don't necessarily prefer them, because I like to get direct to a question and help that person answer, a question directly if possible. But if they don't know what it is that they're there for, then a cold reading is pretty good. Sage, I see a bunch of people answering questions here. It has to come from your divination. So, I mean, your intuition. So if you throw cards down, don't you think that you just have to allow that information to come to you and let it macerate in your brain? And
oh yeah, I agree. I think what bothers me about people who throw that, I think that, like, when people throw that word out there, that cold reading, they're using it in a way that tries to debunk the idea that divination is real, and that we can divine things and bring, true and useful information to our clients.
Right.
But I think that it's part of it. I think that, and most of us, so there are people who are trained at cold reading, and they use it as a stage performance.
Right.
However, I think those of us who are drawn to the whole reading, livelihood or whatever, we do it instinctively anyway.
Yeah.
Like, I meet a new person and I'm already, I know things about them because I cold read, I do it.
Yes.
But it's only part of what I do when I'm being hired to read, or when I'm, giving a reading to a client. That it's a combination of the two.
It is. It is. And sometimes I think it's the environment too, where you're at. There's so many things that can influence a person's reading, and even their mindset when they walk into, to a reading,
Yeah.
I'm looking at, okay, great. People can see you. Hi, Paula. And Alex Park writes, good, you're on here, Renee. What's the best way to store cards when not in use? What do you do?
Oh, so I have so many different decks of cards,
Yeah.
and I kind of let each one of them tell me what it wants. The deck that I use most often has a big oval labradorite that I store it with, and I do wrap. This is the similar thing. I wrap all of my cards in silk.
Right.
I think you could use cotton too, as long as it's a natural fiber and not an unnatural fiber. I think that that's okay. So they all have these like little, here, I'll find mine, little silk wrapping kind
Yeah.
of things,
Yep.
right? And some of them are also in boxes on top of being wrapped in the silk. So I think it just depends.
Yep. And I'm the same way. I prefer the boxes because as you do, we get hired a lot to do different events and such. So I think the boxes keep everything safe. So, drinks don't get spilled on them from clients or they don't get bent too much. I have
Yeah.
way too many decks, so some of them are already losing, you know what I mean? Some of the color and everything. Um, but to me, the boxes just kind of work really well with me, especially if I'm going to be traveling with them. Or as most people know, I have my own tower room, so I have spaces in my room where I put my decks. And to
Yeah.
back up what Mary Kate was asking, and anybody who's ever had a reading with me, I take my sage or Florida water, and I sage my cards before and after every reading. So I'm not sure what you do sage too, don't you, Renee?
I use sage. I don't do it between every reading. I mean, especially when you're reading, like, for example, at the Renaissance Fair, like we
Yeah, yeah,
both used to.
yeah. That's
Um,
the window. Yeah.
like that's impossible. So I learned actually from that to um, use my own innate magic, and
Yeah.
I would hold it in between readings. I'd hold the deck in my hand and imagine like a beautiful white star light in the center of the deck radiating out and clearing any energies.
Yes.
So you don't need the tool, it's here.
Yeah.
um,
Mm-hmm.
but I do like to use sage on my cards, and I'll do it after a day's worth of reading, or if I'm not doing readings back to back, I'll do it before and after.
Yeah, that's what I try and do here at the store. But right when you and I were together over at the Ren Fair, it's the same thing. You can't because it's one after the other, and you really got to do your best. Sometimes I'll just have it burning on the floor because it's an outdoor event, and I'll have some sage just burning just so it can waft over and maybe help to recharge me a little bit.
Hmm.
Because after doing 10 readings and stuff, it's like,
Absolutely.
yeah, and like Helena just wrote um, that Helena, excuse me, says she imagines white light. Oops, I just dropped my questions. Imagining a white light coming down, you know what I mean, and cleansing space. So I'm going to get to the next question that we have here. So Tracy, you're on. Alrighty. So Tracy West Hancock, a wonderful children's books author, by the way, she writes, um, how to tell true intuition from logic when you are trying to interpret the cards. Good question. Tracy, I don't know if I make an effort to separate the two when I'm doing a reading. So when I do a reading, it just flows. I'll look at something and go blah 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 blah. I don't know if it's logic or intuition. Maybe it's both. I don't want to speak for you, Renee, but it's like I look at that card, I feel the energy from that person, and it just comes out. I sometimes think my cards are just cheap. So maybe it's more intuition than anything else. But I don't think I can separate the two. Can you, Renee?
No, and I wouldn't want to, because I believe that the cards, yes, they're sending their message, and in the card that shows up, there is a specific message for the person with regard to their question, but they also
Yeah.
need some good old common sense and just the wisdom of a person who has done some living and made some mistakes, and you know what I mean? Like, so I readily, easily, and unabashedly mix the two.
Right.
There should be logic in your reading, and if there isn't, get a different reader, honestly.
I absolutely, and we can really do a whole class on that. So,
Yes.
okay, Leah writes, do your talks have themes? Are we supposed to ask questions related to a theme for today, or can we ask any questions? You know what? It's not necessarily that it's a theme. I'm trying to base this forum off of what the needs of you. Does that make sense? So while I think I am teaching people, you're teaching me. Other readers are going to be talking to one another. So I'm not going to say that we have a specific theme, but I imagine that based on what the questions are, that a theme kind of, develops that way. So that's kind of what I'm seeing. So I hope that makes sense. Hey, Brittany, so you get the idea of what I'm talking about. So it's not necessarily a specific theme. It's what you want. So you can ask questions right off the cuff. So I wanted to put that down there. So our next question is from Cosmike Wolf. Hey, Mike, if you're on. Do the cards work for everyone, or do you need to have powers to select the right cards for an accurate reading? So, what's your definition of power? Right? Yeah. What do you think about that one, Renee? Because
Yeah,
I
I
think
mean,
that's intuition that we all have. You just got to know how to fine tune that.
right. It takes development.
Yeah.
Somebody just posted about, and I think this was a follow-up to the question about logic and intuition, was kind of that I doubt my intuition by, like my logical brain saying, oh, you didn't really get that message, right? As if I'm right, Tracy, that's what she's saying. And
Yeah.
I remember that, when I was a young reader, put it that way. But yes, but it takes, and it's the same with this
I'm waving
question.
at people. So
Everyone has intuition, everyone has the power to, and you're not selecting cards. Yeah, that like the cards come up as they come up, and they come up in relation to the energy that's present and the question that's asked. Um, and the reader's skill and experience and intuition are part of how they work.
right.
Um, but I don't think that you need any, like, you don't have to be a special person, some chosen, 100,000 people who have this power.
Right.
Anybody can develop it.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. I think to just put it out there, my success as a reader, and I don't want to speak for you, Renee, but my success as a reader is that I just let it come out. And I've learned to trust that intuition. I have a mouth on me. It's not like I'm super intellectual when I come out. It's like, what the hell's wrong with you? It's that sort of thing. That's my style. But I'm blunt, I'm direct. This is what I feel. This is what I see. And here's the information. And
Mhm.
that's definitely how it works for me. So, Wendy, if you're there, hello. So Wendy writes, how do others control their gifts to be able to give readings for those when they are asked to? All right, I'm going to figure that one out here. I have what feels like an outside source that talks to me either in my dreams or meditation, or sometimes when I talk to others. That voice, for lack of a better word, comes when it has something to tell me whether or not I wanted to. She doesn't even know what to call this. So it's I think the voices in our head, I think we relate to that because I have that all the time.
Yeah.
I could be like I'm getting ready to fall asleep and all of a sudden, what the hell? What? I needed to know this now when I'm getting ready to go to sleep. But
Right.
it happens. But Wendy, if you're listening, and again, this is just my opinion, when those voices come or you get that into that message, make sure you acknowledge it, because the more you push it away, the more knock knock, I'm not going to shut up until you get the message. The more you acknowledge it, even if it means like you're in the middle of the night and you're trying to sleep, if you just jot it down, so that you acknowledge whoever that is that's talking to you, even if it's just your inner self. You put it down on paper, it'll help you to deal with that. Because it's like a little kid sometimes. When you tell a kid, no, 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 they go, yes, 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 yes. And they will constantly razz you until you get that information or what they want. Well, if it is people on the other side that are talking to you, they're going to keep it up until you acknowledge them, write down that message, and then you'll probably get some peace. That's how it works with me. Because Renee, you know this of me. Sometimes I'll get a half-eaten dog toy in the middle of a reading. I'm like, what's that got to do with it? But it'll always mean something down the line. That was a message that is supposed to go to the querent or the client that I'm reading for. So I hope I answered that, Wendy. I hope I got the gist of your question correctly on that.
So could I
Yes,
chime in on that one?
yes, absolutely.
Because I think possibly what Wendy was saying too, I agree with everything you just said, but
Mm-hmm.
also the ability to hone the skill so that it's ready for you when a client comes to you for a question. I think maybe part of what Wendy is saying is
Mm-hmm.
that I get messages all the time and they appear to be accurate and I know they mean something. But when somebody comes to me and says, this is my question, how do I relate that, or how do I control it so that I can just ask and get the answer? And for
Right.
me, that came through using some form of tool instead of just allowing the message to come when it comes.
Mm-hmm.
You learn a tool, learn to use oracle cards or tarot cards or a scrying mirror or a pendulum or something along those lines. And then you can ask
Right.
that guide to speak to you through the tool. And the tool is ready
Mm-hmm.
for you when you have clients, if that makes
Absolutely.
sense.
Oh, it makes perfect sense. There are even times that I'll put my cards down and I'll go to my pendulum or just close my eyes and try to, make sense of what's coming to me. So that makes perfect sense. So we were also asked, what's your favorite deck? So my favorite deck is the Sacred Circle. Then I also have the Sacred Rose, and believe it or not, the old Rider-Waite-Smith deck. So those are among my favorites. I am trying to learn or make my way through the David Bowie deck. So that is those are the ones that I'm currently using now, just to give anybody. Do you have a favorite deck, Renee?
The one I use most often is the Ciro Marchetti Golden Tarot.
Yeah,
I just love the imagery of that one,
yeah,
the
yeah,
color and stuff. But I use Lenormand decks too. I have a fairy tale deck that I use. For certain people, my nerdier clients, I have
yeah,
a physics deck which uses quantum physics terms in place of the normal 78 cards. So
yeah.
instead of like cups, pentacles, swords, and wands, it has time, energy, space, and matter, which is really fun.
That's perfect.
Um,
Oh yes.
yeah. So those are some of my go-to decks, but I have probably 50 decks.
You're charged.
Well,
It's
and I blame you
something
for the
new.
fact that I have 50 decks, Bern, because it's all your fault.
I like that. I get blamed. It's your money. I get blamed for it.
Well, you're the dealer, though.
I'm the dealer. I'm the deck dealer. I got that one. So, I have another question here. And Shireen, this is one of yours, darling. I know that you're on. One question I've had that I have, blah, is how do you depict a certain time or event in a tarot reading? For example, let's say the Eight of Wands come up. It can mean 8 days, 8 weeks, 8 months. How do you determine timing within a tarot? I'm struggling with it. Okay, guess what? I still struggle with that. And I always tell my clients, believe it or not, that I'm not too comfortable with giving timelines because my approach is that I'm not telling the future. I'm giving advice for the future. So if I was telling you your future and this was going to happen in 8 months, well, then that kind of takes away a bit of their own thought making decisions and takes away that process, because no matter what they do, that's going to happen. And that's what they may believe. So there are certain cards. I'm trying to see if I can find that. I have this is the Sacred Circle deck, and I'm hoping, just because I want to find something quickly, I probably won't be able to. But there are a couple of cards here that show pictures of Newgrange. Okay, and I've been to Ireland a few times. My high priest and high priestess is Janet Farrar and Gavin Bone, and so I get to study out there with them. So we were able to go to Newgrange, and I'm still looking for the card, so forgive me. And I discovered that Newgrange is aligned with the winter solstice. So when the card comes up in this particular deck, and I'm really hoping I find it real soon, when the card comes up in here, I will say, I'm not telling your future, but if my gut were to tell me that this should happen or you should do this, that's where I feel more comfortable, that you should do something within a certain amount of time, then I would say it would be between now and the solstice. Or if I'm going to see a card about, let's say, the death card in the tarot is usually aligned. That's this card. All right, which is around Samhain, which is the last harvest. I didn't mean death, okay? But you can see she has a sickle in her hands, and she'll be cutting away the vegetation to make room for more. So I really loved it. So if somebody said they really needed something, I would say, well, the card suggests this. All righty. And of course, just because I want to find Newgrange in this deck, and I'm sure I passed it, I'm not finding it right now. But I'll delve a little bit with time frames when it comes to that. But I won't. It's just me. I won't say it's between 8 months or 8 years or tomorrow or anything, because you could think I'm full of BS and walk out and do whatever you want to do anyway, and everything changes. So I'm not too comfortable giving time frames. What about you, Renee?
When I'm specifically asked for time frames, that doesn't necessarily come through the deck. It kind of comes to me outside of that as
Right.
just a bit of a message or whatever, if it wants to come, I guess.
Yep. I'm
I
laughing
have,
at some of these answers here, so forgive me.
yeah, I have discovered that for some reason with one particular deck, when I do one particular spread, it seems to run the course of about a year. And
Right.
so I do feel confident saying that it seems to me that this scenario could play out within about a year. I don't get
Mm-hmm.
much more specific than that unless I've been given a specific, like message in my ear or whatever from spirit that
Correct.
says, oh yeah, 3 months from now, this is going to happen, which
Mm-hmm.
is rare. That's not very common.
Right.
So that's about how I deal with it. And sometimes, the question came up with where you're trying to discern, does it mean 8 days, 8 months, 8 weeks? I'll say
Right.
that. I'll say could be 8 months, could be 8 days. I don't know.
Exactly. And I've done that. That is absolutely the truth. Shireen, I hope that helps you on that. Shireen is also a reader, and she's come to one of our psychic fairs and stuff like that. So I wanted to give her a little time with that one. So there was a lot here on what drew you to your form of divination. And then I had people also asking me about building a business. So do people specifically ask to give time frames, or does it just come? Yeah, so Lyra, like you were just hearing me and Renee say, they do. People have asked me. But if I'm not comfortable with that, I will tell them that. All righty. So, and you heard what Renee said, that she may feel comfortable within that year. And she's right about that, like depending on what card comes up, and then I'll kind of embellish on that. So that's how that works for me. Um, okay, great. I love this. So now people are starting to reply to one another because there's a lot of other readers. So Jean is on as well. And Sharina says, thank you. That's awesome. So I'm gonna. There's so much here that we could go on for like 3 hours here, and we're not able to do that. But what drew you to your form of divination? Okay, so I'm gonna give you my. There's no way that we're gonna be able to touch on every answer here because there's lots. I probably have like 30 of them here. But what drew me, my dreams, I started to get a lot of information in my dreams. My sister Margaret also has that thing, and so does my mom. And we were raised superstitious. Okay, so my mom's Italian, so I'm half Italian, and we were raised with a lot of that. There's that mixing of what is superstitious and what your faith is. So I was raised Roman Catholic. I am pagan today, but there was a lot of that meshing, like a lot of cultures do. So that was deemed okay in my family. So with the dreams, I started to seek out what they meant. And that's where I stumbled on my first deck of cards. And this is my old days as a punk down in the city. And my first shop that I ever went into was Enchantment. So that was Lady Rhea and many others that were there. And I got my first deck there. So it drew me into it. And that's how it worked for me. I know that a lot of people will have different experiences, and they're all valid. Make sure you understand that everybody's valid, pun intended. I'm looking at Jean's responses here. So there are, Renee, what drew you to this?
Well, to the tarot, I don't know if that I would phrase the tarot as my form of divination. I think that I use a lot of different forms, but the first one I was drawn to was scrying. And honestly, and I put this in your comments too, that when I was like a child, as small as I can remember, I remember seeing images and visions in the reflected bath water while I was sitting in it, and in bowls of water and that sort of thing. And I scried for a while until I had a very frightening experience as a young person, and then I shunned all forms of divination for a long time because I was afraid. And because
Right.
I didn't understand protection, I didn't understand that I didn't cause that terrible thing to happen, but the tarot was interesting. I was working on a decorative project, and I bought the Renaissance tarot from uh, Rosalisa's shop in Sugarloaf when it was there. This is years and years ago. And
That's
I
right.
used
I got my sacred rose from her too.
Yeah, and I used
Yep.
it. I used it as first I used it as a decorative tool in a thing that I was employed to do. I was decorating someone's hotel room in Renaissance style, and I got so attached to these cards, and I started using them. And then I discovered, and Rosalise is the one that told me this, that it's like a little psychology session, a little bit of a self-analysis when you start using the cards for yourself. And so that's how I started using them to do my own psychoanalysis, which was sorely needed, mind you.
Probably for
um,
all of us.
and it helped. And then I started to, discover the whole intuition again. It came back to me, and I realized that that divination is just part of who I am.
Right.
And I got a little more fluent in the tarot through that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm looking at this. Hillary writes, it drew me, but my first form of divination was super realistic, precognitive dreams. One person says love. Rose, as we were just talking about you, Rose, a friend gifted me with the tarot deck and said, I think you need this. The rest is history. So that was Rose. And Katie Bull writes, I stumbled upon them. I wasn't looking for them at all. I saw the art on the deck and I knew that they were mine. Tina writes, my goddess. It goes on and on. There's so many different, Mary, she writes, my Polish grandmother used to do it with wax, an old key and water. She passed down her traditions to me. Another person writes art, and that's you, Blythe. Wendy, a ray of light. Okay, she's just saying that I don't share my gifts much. Not just. She's just saying she doesn't do that. A fluke with my father who bought the Rider Waite thinking it was a card game. I love that one. I love that. So you get gifted with a deck. And Cindy, I think I saw that you were on. So your dad thought it was a card game and then gave them to you. I love it. I
That's
love it.
awesome.
It is. You know, in my research, if you remember, I wrote that tarot course. In my research, and I know a lot of people probably say that that's not the truth, but the research that I was able to come up was that it was based on a card game called Tarocchi, and it was akin to bridge in Italy. Some people would say that the tarot is Egyptian, and others will say that it's Italian in its uh, in the history of the tarot, because there's two different types of tarot. There's the old tarot, which the major arcanas are pictures, but the minors only have the elements that represent on it. So wands will only have wands on it. It doesn't have a story like the Rider-Waite Smith deck has. So this we can get into history another time, but there's two different types of formats of tarot. But I believe that it came from this game, and it kind of makes an awful lot of sense when I was looking at the history of it. And by the way, you know, if anybody tells you, hey, you can't do this because it's in the Bible, and I don't mean to, you know, if you study the Bible, that's fantastic. But tarot didn't exist until the 1400s, so keep that in mind. You know, somebody added that in, so just to give you a heads up on that one. Hi, Haiti. Oh, I'm loving these. Could the dreams of people have passed on, or is this the start? Oh, I think it's the start, Mary Kate. I think it's the start of many things, depending on the person. With me, it was dreams. Others, maybe the cards just kick-started something. You know what I mean? So who knows? Alrighty. So let me jump forward just a little bit because let me see. We have 20 minutes. So people asked me in a lot of private messages. I'm just looking at this. More people already. Um, asked me about the business of tarot. Alrighty, and a bunch of people asked me that. Boy, I can't talk today. Asked me that uh, after last week's show. Alrighty, so now the words are coming out. So the practice of the tarot or starting a business, it's not an easy one. All right, and what I mean by that is, it's fantastic to open up a store or a website, but how do you get people to you? How do people trust you? Because remember something, that when somebody comes to you for a reading, it's an honor. It's an honor that a person will sit with you, reveal themselves to you, and some of it is very, very heavy, and they trust you. So I'm looking at those people, alrighty, and why would you want them to come? Some people look at tarot as, oh, let's have some fun today, and it's a, you know, a joke, or it's entertainment and stuff like that. And in some states you have to legally say that it's entertainment, alrighty? So you have to find out what the laws are in your area, okay? There are some states that will not allow you to do tarot professionally unless you have a certificate, a minister, like in that state. So I have a certificate as a non-denominational minister here in New York and in most states, and then I also have a separate one in the state of Massachusetts, because Massachusetts did not recognize the certificate that I had here, and I aligned myself with another church out there so I can also do tarot out there. So there were certain laws. So the first thing you need to do is to find out what the laws are in your state. So that's a big deal, because you can get shut down, and I've heard of all sorts of stories. Now, the laws, when they come down rough on people, it's unfortunate that a lot of it has to do with a lot of unscrupulous readers. You know, those that say $10 for a reading and $300 for the candle that I'm going to pray over and give offerings to and stuff. So it's those people that the law is trying to protect the average person from. But unfortunately, it's those people that make the rest of us look bad. So I charge by the half hour and by the hour. You have to figure out what your demographic will support. How do you find that out? Find out what others, go look. If you're an online store or you're going to do readings online, well, look at what other online places are getting, especially those that you trust. Alrighty. So I've never charged. Well, we'll talk about that a little bit, Mike, because we had a discussion about that last week. But here, I charge 50 for the half hour. Alrighty, 95 for the hour. And if somebody wants something specific, like I did a 2-hour reading this morning, so that was really, a heavy duty reading. But why do I do that? I have a pretty large store for a metaphysical shop, 1,200 square feet, so we do classes and all sorts of things here. Electric is very expensive. I have insurance, and I have all these other things. I have to buy stock and all that. So I have to charge that money. So if you're starting out as a reader, you need to find out what the going rates are. Now, if somebody is really good and they charge $75 an hour or $100 an hour like I do, well then, why did they get that? Are they well known? Have they been doing this for 20 years, 30 years? If they have, you might want to lower that price a little bit because you're still honing your craft. Unless, of course, you have that background. People just need to find out who you are, and they need to find out how good you are. They need to see references and reviews. And so that's how I built my business up. I started working at various different shops, and built up a reputation like that. I've done lots and lots of little parties that people would hire me for, and again, based on my ethics, if I'm the right reader for them, then they will hire me again. So it took a lot of years honing my craft. So I would read for friends. Then with reading for friends, I became comfortable and started venturing out into reading for people that I didn't know, which I actually kind of prefer. Alrighty, because when you know less about a person, you get it. The human condition, you become biased. So figure out your pricing. Take a look all around. Tony, I'm trying to get Renee in. Okay, so I'm going to do one person a session. Okay, so Renee dropped off and I'm trying to get her back. Okay, so we'll hold that off. All right, Tony? So getting back to what I was saying, you have to see what things are like in your area, figure out your demographic, and that's your first step. Then you have to decide whether you're going to be online or if you're going to have a brick and mortar store. I do both. So I have my store here. I do readings by Skype. I do email, believe it or not, and phone. So I've done readings for people while they were driving in their car. I read for people all around the world. Alrighty, so in England and in France and in Italy and all over. That's where Skype is great, and I pay for the upgraded subscription for Skype, and that works for me. So you would also need a good website. For me, I don't play the witchy thing all that much. That's my way of doing things. I know others play it up a lot, and if that's your thing, that's great. I don't. I'm a pretty relaxed. Listen, I'm wearing a Beatles shirt right now. Okay, so I'm a pretty relaxed person when it comes to my path and my spirituality. But remember, tarot is not a pagan or Wiccan thing. Tarot, anybody of any religious path or spiritual path can use it. So I try not to intimidate anybody when it comes to that. So I've had people come in, oh, no, you're a witch, you can't do this to me. And I'm like, why? I read for Christians, I read for Catholics, I read for agnostics and atheists. It doesn't matter what a person's path is. Tarot can be used universally. So that's kind of the start. The most important thing is having a good reputation. Alrighty? Try not to associate yourself with, like I mentioned, $300 for a spell that I'm going to do. No. separate that. Make sure you practice what you preach and you have a good set of ethics. After a while, your reputation starts to carry you through. Obviously, you have to do advertising. Heck, look at this show, alrighty? I'm going to be bluntly honest. I got 4 readings off of last week's show. That's fantastic. I'm not going to complain about that. But it's really awesome that people are listening, you know, and you are representative of the community. So how would you want to present yourself? And that's the important thing. I have my idols like Rachel Pollack and Mary. Just so many. There are other great readers and that are out there, and teachers and such. So there are great ones. So, and what's so funny, I have a sign on the door that says I'm in a session and I can't answer, and they're at the door. Anyway, look at what your demographic is like. Look at what you what your area is like. Is it open to tarot? Is it not? Are you, again, brick and mortar? I had to figure out what Cornwall, right? I'm in Cornwall, New York. I had to figure out what that demographic was like. You have to figure that out. So guess what? You got to do some marketing. So it's not all the fun stuff. Fun stuff. It takes years of study to be a good tarot reader. But you get where I'm coming from. And that's just the basics. Again, find out what the law is, your price point, what your expenses are going to be, how you're going to advertise. Is it going to be online? Is it going to be flyers? Are you going to go to specific events and do readings? That's a great way to do it. Things like that. That's how it starts to build. But you got to really develop that word of mouth. Now, I don't know what happened to Renee. Maybe it's a bad signal or something, and it could be on my end or hers. But I'm sure Renee would say the same thing. She was calling in from Arizona, so we can see, what that's all about. So that's like some of the ideas there, alrighty? Now, another person had asked me what to do in regards to picking a deck. All right, so that's another question. And to me, it's the artwork. I know I know we touched a little bit on this, the myth of you having to be gifted, and that's not true. If somebody gives you a deck and you don't like the art, well, then it's not going to work for you. So you have to look at things that way. So for me, like I mentioned, the Sacred Rose, I went to Rosalisa's in Sugarloaf. Right, Rose? I know you're on. And I bought that deck from her because I fell in love with the artwork. And the artwork in that particular deck, the eyes in all of the characters don't have pupils. So when I look at that deck, it actually opens up a little something to the other side, because I do some mediumship work. And when I want to do that more, I seem to go to that deck, and it seems to do something for me. It just kind of opens up a door, and I wind up working with that particular deck. So that works. It's so nice to see so many people here, and I'm really excited. And as I mentioned, please share this around. Even when we're done with the video, I actually have 2 meetings after this. So I have to make sure that, I'm all together on this. So I have to make sure I'm ended on time. So we got 8 minutes to go here. Now, with that, I am going to read a Lenormand deck. Okay. You know how I've been ending with a 1-card reading for the week? And I encourage you all I'm going to show the card, and I encourage you all to let me know what you think this card means. So Lenormand is simpler to understand because the imagery is more direct, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So I am going to pick advice for the week while we still have 7-8 minutes. And okay, so this is Lenormand. You can see there's a nice little crack in there because I use these cards a lot. And it's called The Child. All right, I hope everybody can see this. So what does the child mean in Lenormand to you, okay? Just what, if you pulled a card and you saw the child, what would that mean? All right. So I'm going to tell you what it means to me. Since we are not talking about a specific child, all righty, this is new hope, new beginnings. It's for the week until next Monday, all righty? So something new, new beginnings, new hope is what this means. So I'm going to hold it up. Let me see what you all, I hope you can see all that. Can everybody see that card? Yes, Tony, new beginnings. Can you see that? No, it's not the gypsy cards, Mike. This one is under the under the rose Lenormand deck. Carefree innocence. I like that. So, oh, I think Renee was able to make it back on here. Let's. No, we cut. Tony, I'm gonna try and get you on for a few minutes. All right, we only have a few. Um, and I'm trying to add you. Let's see if it works. Okay.
Hi.
Oh, hi, Tony. So everybody,
How are you?
Tony, good. So we have seriously just a few minutes left here. But what does this mean to you?
Well, it does signify new beginnings to me, especially with today being, well, actually, today being 999, September 9th of 2019. To me, it's about finishing what I've started and getting ready for new things to come.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, somebody just wrote childlike adventures, um, carefree innocence was another one. You wrote new beginnings, so that's really awesome. I think we
Yeah.
kind of need that because this is a tough week, right? For most people, it's 9/11 this week.
Oh, God, I've been
And
feeling that.
yeah, it is. I always do an altar for anybody to come in and light a candle
Yeah.
every year. You know, me being the New Yorker that I am, I'm a Manhattanite, so that it affected us pretty heavily. But I
Yeah.
wanted to kind of see what people thought. I'm really happy to see that card be pulled up because it's a tough week in the news, and it's been kind of tough for a lot of people. I think that's the reason why this spike in my readings this week.
Yeah, I also think, the fact that the full moon is going to be in Pisces on Friday, and emotions are really high this week. I feel like lately this week, and I have a lot of things going on, but do you feel like on the verge of tears about a lot of things? Like, not that I'm going to be sorrowful, but very emotional,
Somebody came up to me yesterday about that and said there's been such a funk that she's been feeling and was asking me my opinion about that. So, and that was just yesterday. And Jean just writes that a child just came to her front door. Go figure that one. Go figure that.
That's
one.
awesome.
Yeah, that's the way it works. So I just want to keep it that we have 4 minutes because then I have 2 more meetings that I got to do.
I hear you. I'm sorry I was late. I've been actually, I could actually would love to ask or request that I have some good vibes sent my way because I have the potential for a new job this week that I'm really that I'm really trying to get. So that's why I was late. So sorry about that.
Oh no, this is what we want to hear, and that's awesome. Please, people, when the video is done, please keep writing in the comments. It doesn't mean the forum is done. If
Absolutely.
you would go to Breed's Closet Tarot and Divination Facebook page, it's a group page. Join that. Let's keep the conversations going because I think it really helps out a lot of people.
Yeah, I've been sharing.
And,
I've been sharing your page with a lot of people, and I've been recommending you to quite a lot of people. In fact, I am going to be bringing a bunch of my girls to your place in October because we're a bunch of dorks and we get together for the Supernatural premiere. So I have people coming in from Connecticut, New York, and DC. So we'll be headed your way because we're going to go to the wineries. We're going to Playa, and then we're going to take a ride by you.
I love it. I'm all about it. So take a look at the divination forum, okay? share this
Oop, there's
video.
somebody I invited in, my friend Aileen. Hi, Aileen.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. You know, I'm trying to make sure I get all this in. In the comments here or in the divination forum, please write your questions for next week. Okay, because I can also invite, like we just did with Tony and Renee, invite other readers to give their opinions about how to answer these questions. So please feel free to write all the questions that you want. As mentioned, there isn't a theme. The theme is actually based on you and what your questions are about. So I'm going to base each show based on your question. Does that kind of make sense? I know it's a little different, but that's what I want. If anybody knows me, that's the way it goes. You know what I mean?
It is what it is.
I do so much, you know. But I want to see that forum continue going. We have about a minute here, so I want to thank everybody who's here. We got great feedback today, and it looks as if the show is starting to take off, and that's awesome. Like I mentioned, we had over 1,000 views last week, which means
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so great!
Yeah,
Congratulations.
or something like that. No, it's not me. It's all of us.
Well, you know what I mean.
Yeah, thank you. And with that in mind, I'm going to try and put them on YouTube, as I mentioned before. But the success of this forum is going to be up to all of you. And that's what we're looking for. My superpower is networking, folks. And that's what I want to do here. All right, here. And it's a different perspective. So there's some great shows out there. I just wanted to see what can I do, you know, based on you know, what I can do here in New York, can I take it with me, that sort of thing. But I want to say a great week to all of you. My prayers to all of you who were affected by 9/11. I think we all are.
Oh God,
So,
it's so heavy.
Yep. Please put that energy out for healing. We all need it. And I think I'm going to leave it at that. There's probably a whole lot more that we could touch on. So, lovely lady, I'm going to say goodbye to everybody. And
Peace and love to you, Bernadette. Have
Yes.
a good week.
You too. To everybody out there. Mwah. Very well.
Peace and love.
Now I got 2 meetings to do. So I got to go.
Peace and love, Bernadette.
Peace and love to you, hon. Bye-bye.
Bye.